Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting. It is August 18, 1731, 5:30 p.m., 1 p.m. Roll call. Dr. Gaffney?
Here.
Justin Garrett?
Here.
Mia? Here. Sean?
Sean is running a bit late.
Gina? I'm here. Arsenio?
Here.
Dr. Maria Mejarado?
Dr. Mejarado will not be here today.
Preeti Merchant?
Preeti is also running late,
And Jennifer Morgan.
also running late, but will be in attendance.
Hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda.
Nothing received with me and no one online.
Thank you. So now we are going to adjourn to closed session to consider and or take action upon any of the following: public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54954.2. Administrative representatives.
Dr. Sherwood?
So we're going to adjourn to closed session at 5:32 p.m.
We got lost. It's been 2 hours. At least 1 more. Yeah. 2. July 1. Oh. All right, I will reconvene open session at 6:42, no action taken during closed session. Let's see, approval of tonight's agenda. Who wants to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? I approve. Uh-oh. And I second. All right, Justin with the motion, Preeti with the second. Roll call vote, Sean.
Aye.
Preeti.
Yes.
Dr. Gaffney.
Aye.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Rita. Yes. Gina. Yes. Justin.
Yes.
Are standing up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Morgan, if I may, just for the record, I'd like to note that Preeti Merchant, Sean King, and Jennifer Morgan
And I'm here.
are now in attendance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Oh, look at you.
Ready to go.
Dr. Wood with our enrollment report.
Yes, okay, so the first thing that we have this evening is our enrollment report, which I think Ziba is gonna be putting up there on the screen. So given that we're within the first 2 weeks of the school year, this is the most dynamic time of the year in terms of enrollment. But the numbers that we always present to the board are as of the first of the month, so this is as of August 1st. So you can see we have 267 students at Leading Edge, 109 at PACT, 773 at PFAA, 592 at STAR, and 139 at ECA. Now I told you the numbers are dynamic and they're constantly changing. So basically today we're kind of in the process of still filling spots, but as of this morning, we are at 261 for Leading Edge, 118 at PACT, so we're a little higher, 763 at PFAA, 590 at Star Academy, and 137 at the Early College Academy. So numbers will fluctuate a little bit between now and basically Labor Day, and then they'll kind of settle in. And then our enrollment for the year is based off of the CBED census date, which is that first Wednesday in October. So that Wednesday right before fall break. Any questions about enrollment report? All right. I hear I have a new clicker, so this is going to be interesting. Well, the slides aren't there yet. It's thinking. I have a black slide right now. One moment. It's just black. Do you want to just bring up the slide deck and then we can just kind of go through
That's
it?
what's trying to happen, but it's just not cooperating.
Yay! All right, now what happens if you put in slideshow one? Yay! We have slides. All right, now let's see if the clicking works.
Is it on the side?
Yeah.
What am I pointing at?
I think
Is it on the side?
It might not be
On
on.
button.
Wait, don't you need this part plugged in?
Yeah, you have to plug it in.
Oh, once an IT director, always an IT director. Let's see.
There.
Yay! All right. So it is our first board meeting of the school year. So this is always a board meeting where we talk a little bit about our strategic focus for the year and where we're heading. So we're talking a little about launching the 25-26 school year. But before we jump into the school year, we need to talk about summer. Summer is a great time for students and many staff members that get to go on vacation, but it is still a very busy time on a school campus. So we accomplished quite a bit this summer. First, we had 2 different summer boost programs. At the beginning of the summer, we had a program that was really focused on our elementary students and our high school students. So at the elementary level, this was really about building literacy and math skills, while at the high school level, it was about credit recovery programs that we have going on. And so shout out to Carolyn Hines, who was our elementary summer boost program, and Kim Woods, that was leading our high school summer boost program. And then at the end of the summer, Gareth kind of re-envisioned how we were doing kind of what we were referring to as our middle school boost program. We typically had offered this program at the beginning of the summer and often had really low enrollment, a really low turnout. And so this year, what they did is they really focused on 6th grade and 9th grade. So those 2 grade levels where students are coming into our program, and invited everyone to come and join us. And we had about, I think at the high point, we had about 95 students in the program, and then it kind of dwindled down as we went into the second week to mid-70s. But they used that as an opportunity to really like build academic skills, build literacy skills, and also get these students really introduced to our environment. So a lot of really great outcomes in both programs, and thinking about expanding that summer boost program for middle school students as we move into next school year. We also had quite a bit of facility work going on campus. So we have an amazing custodial and IT and business office team that work hard during the summer. So everything from deep cleaning things, so waxing floors, cleaning the blinds, pressure washing garbage cans, you name it, it happens here during the summer. We also did some remodel in the Black Rock admin office, which I know you guys saw earlier, with new paint and signage and that sort of thing to make a more professional environment. And we did a bunch of grounds work. So you'll notice all the trees out here are trimmed up and not hanging over the buildings anymore. And we have new mountains of mulch in front of Star Academy, which we're very excited about, because the mountains of mulch were free. And the tree company was very excited to hear that they had a place that would happily take all of their free mulch. So they're bringing that here and helping us with that. And then our IT department did a lot of work over the summer, replacing access points, replacing damaged Chromebooks, and just preparing for our intercom replacement that is supposed to happen over fall break. Also, something really cool that happened this summer is we started a new student worker program at SCAPE. So we've had student workers on our campuses for the last couple of years, primarily in the business office and in IT, and a little bit of help with facilities and custodial. But this year we expanded that, and we actually had 10 high school students that were working in our student worker program over at Star Academy in our before and after school program. And we're even kind of thinking a little bit about how we can grow this in the long term, maybe looking at something like an early childhood education pathway, something like that. But really, these 10 students, one of them was my kid, so I got to hear all about it firsthand. They were a really valuable part of our summer SCAPE program. And some of them are talking about becoming teachers and things. So we're kind of excited about that. Most of them are staying on to work during the school year as well. We also did a lot of professional learning. So here at Natomas Charter School, we actually hosted a GLAD workshop, which is basically a series of strategies that you use to support English learners, but they work for all students in terms of literacy development. We also did a bunch of stuff with math training and new employee onboarding. We had 2 days of new employee onboarding. And then we did a series of welcome back staff days. So we had activities where staff were welcome into their academies or departments, but then also did some stuff whole school as well. And then we did a lot of work welcoming students to campus. So, we do a very robust orientation process, especially for our 6th and 9th graders. But we also did activities like meet the teacher and other types of things to really get families and students on campus and sort of integrated. That really actually culminated on Friday night with 2 of our parent groups, the Novas at Star Academy and P4A here at PFA, hosting kind of back to school picnic and barbecues on campus to sort of get families back in the action. And then this year, it says more to come. We have back to school nights the next couple of weeks. There's all sorts of Academy parent groups happening. Novas and P4A did the picnics. And then this Saturday is actually the Natomas Arts and Education Foundation is participating in Race for the Arts at Land Park. So come join us. All right, so that was a little bit about all of the busy things that we did during the summer. Now let's talk about a new school year. So, in our mission statement, we talk about empowering the leaders of tomorrow. And the slides that you're going to see up here, these are actually the same slides that we went through at our all staff day. But one of the things that we really spent time revisiting is our mission and vision. We at Natomas Charter School, we're not just your neighborhood school district, right? We're not just kind of any old school. We are a school that is kind of thinking about trying to do things in a different way. So we spent some time revisiting our mission and vision and really kind of highlighting that we're really trying to, empower and embrace the leaders that we have in our schools and really kind of develop them. We create a students first environment that's safe and equitable, really focus on high quality academic choices, valuing the diverse identities in our community, and having a caring and supportive staff. We also talked a little bit about our pillars. So at Natomas Charter School, our charter is founded on the 3 pillars of students first, innovation, and accountability. And that those 3 things combined are really about making sure that learning is a guarantee at Natomas Charter School. A lot of the school systems that many of us have been a part of, whether as students or parents or educators, it's kind of like if you show up, you can have some food from the learning buffet, but no one's going to require you to learn, right? We want to kind of take a different approach here at Natomas Charter School that if a kid's showing up and isn't really engaging in the work, we're going to try to figure out why and what we could do differently. But really that idea that, every student is going to grow and learn at Natomas Charter School. We don't do it alone though. We have something that we refer to as the 3-way compact. All of you that are Natomas Charter School parents, you actually reaffirmed this compact as part of your enrollment packet this year. But Natomas Charter School is founded on the idea that we all want to accelerate student achievement, but that requires three entities working together: the family, the school, and the student. And we all bring important aspects to that relationship. And so this year, actually, one of the things that we're going to be doing with a lot of our families is revisiting the 3-way compact. Just in full transparency, to be frank, like during the pandemic, things got a little fuzzy. And we're finding that, families, educators, students, we all kind of need to remember what is the important role that we play in making sure that a student learning is occurring at school. And part of that is because when you think of all of the minutes that are available in a given calendar year, students are only on campus about 15% of those minutes. The other 85% of the time, they're at home with their families, or they're sleeping, or they're engaged in other types of activities, right? So if we want to move the needle on student achievement, we've only got 15% of the time. We got to really make sure all the other parties are sort of working with that. So one of the things we're going to be talking to families about a back to school night is, the importance of sleep, making sure that kids are getting restful sleep and they're coming to school ready to learn, that they're not sitting at home with their iPads in their bedrooms till 2 o'clock in the morning. That's not good. That, kids are engaged in pro-social activities in the mornings and afternoons. So everything from eating a good breakfast to participating in, sports. One of the things that Diana at STAR and I have been talking a little bit about this year is making sure our families are aware of the recreational sports activities that are available in our community, whether that's playing Little League with North Natomas or playing soccer, that sort of thing, because those are important things. It's not something we do at school, but it's still really important to a child's development. And we see the difference in the classroom when students are engaged in those types of activities. And making sure that families are using breaks and weekends to help kids rest, but also explore the world, have some chores and some stuff, because we can definitely see when a kid has spent all weekend on their iPad. There are sometimes on a Monday, you'll walk through elementary classrooms and see little kids rocking in a corner. And it's clear that, they spent sadly a couple of days with a lot of technology and not a whole lot of structure. And so all of those pieces combined help us to make sure that that 15% of the time is as strong as it can possibly be. And just as one example of evidence of the importance that we play in working together at school is attendance. So I mentioned that students are only at school 15% of all the minutes in the year, right? So that means when a kid misses school, they miss a significant amount of time each day that they miss. Now I want to be clear, if a child is sick, we do want them to stay home because otherwise they make everyone else sick, right? But you and I have been children before. Many of us have children in our homes. We know every day that they don't want to go to school is not necessarily a sick day. Sometimes it's just Friday and I don't feel like going to school, right? But we can see in our data that when students miss school, it affects their learning. If you look at the bar graph on the left, you see the purple bar, the blue bar, the green bar, et cetera. Basically, each of those bars represents about 3 days of school. So students that are in the purple bar have less than 3 days of school missed. Students that are in the blue bar have somewhere between 4 and 6 days. Students in the green bar have kind of between 7 and 9 days, et cetera. And so you can see that that last bar, the pink bar, those are students that are considered chronically absent. That means that they've missed 10% or more of the school year. Our students who are chronically absent are doing about half as well in English language arts and math as students that are here, they're missing less than 3 days per school. 50% of our student population is in that purple bar. So, the vast majority of our students actually have very strong attendance. What we're really wanting to kind of have conversations with families about is the other 50% of the student population and making sure that students are coming to school every single day that they can possibly come to school. Jen, do you have a question? You have a question? Look, okay.
Yeah, it's
processing. Got it. Come on. Okay. So at our back to school night presentations, we're going to be asking families to kind of do 3 things this year. First, connect. So making sure that they're getting to know their child's teachers and making sure they're building strong partnerships with their child's teachers. Also connecting with families and being part of the larger campus community. Sending positive messages about school and all subject areas. So even though you might have hated science, Please don't tell your kid you hated science. Science is amazing. As a former science teacher, I want kids coming into my classroom loving silence. Loving science, not silence. Silence isn't bad. No, but also contributing. And part of contributing is setting like boundaries and structures for your kids, right? So limiting screen time, engaging in pro-social activities. So whether that's playing board games or sports or being involved in clubs, establishing norms and routines at home, because norms and routines at home help with norms and routines at school. We can see those kids that clearly have no norms and routines at home, because as a teacher, when you're trying to implement norms and routines in the classroom, it's like you're speaking a foreign language to them, right? And then also supporting kids with homework, but also the importance of independent reading and math. And just like we've did last year, this year we're really going to be hitting hard on the importance of math games at home. So for instance, at the Star Academy Back to School Night next week, there's going to actually be a little math game on every student's desk when you go to your child's classroom. And Courtney, our math TOSA, and Diana are going to talk to families a little bit about the importance of using these math games at home, one, to reinforce math skills, but also helps with other skills too, like the ability to engage in dialogue, maybe lose a game and lose in a graceful way, that type of thing. And the last part, championing. So helping us have a strong school. If you think about Natomas Charter School's 33-year history, and we have really strong results over those 33 years, it's also because we have a long history of parents being actively involved in our campuses. And definitely post-pandemic, that kind of fell off a little bit. And so one of the things that I'm working on with each of our parent groups and the principals is really trying to get more volunteers on our campuses this year. We really want families to be engaged in any way they can be engaged, whether that's chaperoning a field trip, coming in and reading, maybe if you want to help with after-school tutoring, something like that. We want families to be engaged. So we're going to be encouraging them to volunteer. And then also, conflict happens, but trying to help families understand to always assume positive intent. There was a second grade teacher that made the comment the other day, I promise to my families that I won't believe everything your kid tells me about what happens at home if you also do the same thing about my classroom. Because kids do have a tendency to be really great reporters of everything that's going on around them, but they're also children, and sometimes they're missing the context and and the understanding. And so really, when asking families that if your kid comes home and you hear a story that seems a little like out of pocket, like probably is, assume there's probably more to the story, reach out to the adult, hey, what's going on? Because we really want to make sure that we're championing our teachers and we're championing our staff so we can support our kids moving forward. So where are we headed as a school this year? So we've been focused on renorming and rebuilding a strong school culture and strong rigorous instruction. The two go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. This year is also a little bit different in that we're going to be doing our WASC self-study, which is a reflection process that we go through as a school community so that we can earn our accreditation. So we'll be working on that. Our theme for this year, and you might have seen these posters around the campus, is excelling together, every educator, every student, every day. And what we've talked a lot about as a staff is this really falls into three big buckets. First, deepening our instructional practices. Second, building something called collective efficacy. That is fancy edu-speak for getting educators together to look at data and talk about how we can better serve kids. So if we're a group of math teachers, we're all going to come together. We're going to look at our math data. If Arsenio is like nailing it, but Justin's like, I don't really know how to teach that, Arsenio and Justin are going to be having conversations together about how Justin can learn from Arsenio, right? That's the concept of building collective efficacy. And it's actually the thing that has the strongest research efficacy in terms of moving the needle on student achievement. And then leading the learning. And so this year, we're doing a lot of things like learning walks, where groups of teachers are actually going and observing each other teach under, as teams with their principal. And that's really about deprivatizing our practices and making sure we have opportunities to kind of learn from each other to improve the overall quality of our instruction. So why are we doing this? It's twofold. First, this is Linda Darling Hammond. She's the president of the State Board of Education. So think of her as like the highest ranking board member in the state of California. But she talks a little bit about the quality of instruction is the single most important school-based factor in student achievement. Ensuring that all students, regardless of background, have access to high-quality teaching is fundamental to achieving educational equity. So really this focus on instruction that we're really taking this year, it's a continuation of our conversations that we've had around equity and belonging. We can definitely see when we go into a classroom, if a teacher doesn't have strong instructional practices, the students who are most likely to be disengaged the fastest are the students who are coming from marginalized populations. Think about students who are learning English, maybe students with disabilities. So we want to make sure as part of our equity work that we have the strongest instruction we can possibly have in every classroom, really with that focus on the kids, because students first is one of our pillars. At the same time, we want to make sure that every single one of our teachers feels successful in their work. And I said teachers, but really I mean educators, every single person, counselors, administrators, campus monitors, you name it, because we can't actually afford to lose educators every year. There is not a giant line of people standing at the door wanting to come into education. And one of the things that we know from the work around Daniel Pink and his work around Drive is that every person, regardless of what field you work in, education or otherwise, to feel successful in your job, you really need three things. You need mastery, you need to feel like you know your job well. You need purpose, you need to know that the work that you're doing has some sort of meaning to it. And you need to have autonomy, not in the sense of I can just do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do, but you have some ability to make decisions, right? And one of the things that I was noticing as I was walking through our classrooms last year is I saw a lot of strong instruction going on, but I also saw a lot of people that were new to the profession struggling. And I remember being that teacher. I told the story to the staff that about 5 years into my career, I was ready to quit. It was because I didn't really know how to support the kids that I had in my classroom. I didn't really have a deep enough tool belt. And honestly, my plan was to become a real estate agent. And there's nothing wrong with becoming a real estate agent. It's a great profession. But the system needed me to stay in as a middle school science teacher because we don't have a ton of middle school science teachers, right? And over the last couple of years, we've lost educators, just like every other school system. And the reality is when people leave education, they're not staying, or when they leave Natoma Start School, they're not staying in education. They're often going to other career fields. And so our real focus this year on instruction, deprivatizing practice, really having conversations, engaging with each other is really twofold. It's about how do we make sure every kid has the best teacher we can possibly provide them, that real equity focused lens. And how can we make sure that every educator feels successful and supported in their job so that they will stay in the profession as well. So how we're doing that is, I'm gonna kind of move us along, is we're really spending some time cultivating a shared language of instruction. Like, what does it mean to have good, high quality instruction in all the classrooms? There is a researcher, his name is John Hattie, he's actually based out of New Zealand, and he's created something called visible learning. Basically what he did is he and his team took every single study that existed about what moves the needle on student achievement and organized them in a series of meta-analysis. So think about, if you think of like every study that ever existed on phonics instruction and whether or not phonics instruction impacts reading. Basically, they took all of those studies, combined them together, and then created something called an effect size. Like basically, how important is phonics instruction, right? And how do you do phonics instruction well based on what all of the research says? And so what they did is they literally took 130,000 different studies looking at all sorts of different things, and they created about 350, 400 different influences or effects and ranked them. So basically saying like, if you're going to spend your time, effort, on money on things in education, where should that be and how do you do it well? And so this chart up here, think about this idea of ranking things like a thermometer, right? There are things that are going to be in the red zone. That means they really move student achievement and you want to focus your time there. And there's things that are in the blue zone, which means that they don't move student achievement. Anything they cause learning regression and students fall behind. School as a whole has an effect size of 0.4. So anything above a 0.4 is better than just an average day at school. Anything below a 0.4 is worse than an average day at school. And so it might be a little hard to see on the screen, but if you look down in the blue section, poor attendance, that's a negative 0.46. That's a really, really, really strong negative effect on student learning. So if we have poor attendance, kids fall behind. We see that in our data. So do things like lack of sleep or being suspended from school. At the same time, you look up to the red part, if a teacher doesn't use any classroom management practices and doesn't address disruptive behavior in the classroom, that also has a significant effect on student learning. Teachers who have strong classroom management practices and have strong routines and strong structures, that is a 0.82. That really means that accelerates learning, right? So if you think about all the work we've been doing over the last couple of years around PBIS, that PBS might on its surface seem like culture and student discipline, but it's culture and student discipline in service of accelerating student achievement. So what we're doing this year as a staff is we're really kind of taking a look at these different influences and saying, where are we going to spend our time, effort, and energy, and how are we going to get better at the ones that we know we need to get better? And there are some things, like we're not getting rid of summer vacation, but you can see that summer vacation is in the blue zone, right? So it's like, we're always going to have summer vacation. So what are the structures and routines that we're going to put in place when kids return from summer vacation to address the learning loss that may have potentially happened during the summer? He talks in his research about signature instructional practices. So these are just basically kind of the 8 areas that we're focusing in as a staff. And then, one of the things we talked to our staff about, is this a new thing? And the answer is basically no. You know, in Hattie's visible learning research, there's basically these 4 buckets of what really, or he calls them big ideas for visible learning. And we map those to all of the various initiatives that we've already had in place at school, and we're just continuing to build upon. And then the last thing I would just like to say is I'm just gonna close with a little bit of gratitude. So this summer, we celebrated our 10th anniversary of Adoption Day at our family. Also, we're going into Michael's senior year. So, you know, you all have helped us raise a very unique little boy into a young man who is very much 17, and that means I love him a lot and sometimes don't like his things, but all of you who are parents of 17-year-olds, you completely understand. But just on behalf of, you know, my husband and I and our family, I just want to say thank you. You know, we know that we've been very fortunate to be part of the Natomas Charter School community the last 10 years, and fortunate to have you all, you know, leading our school, including our son. So, all right, any questions I can answer about the work we're doing this year?
I have a question about the end of summer boost.
Yeah.
How long is that?
This year we did it for 2 weeks. And actually, I'm proud to say I was wrong. I told Gareth, I don't think people are gonna come for 2 weeks. They actually came for 2 weeks. So I think that we're looking at keeping it around the same amount of time. The one thing that it's partially to do with our leadership transition at Leading Edge, but it became very PFA heavy in terms of staff. But yet we had a significant number of Leading Edge students show up. So one of the things that Stephanie really wants to work on for the coming year is making sure that it's as equally supported by the Leading Edge staff and community as it is by the PFA community. So especially those incoming 6th graders have an opportunity to meet the teachers that are going to be their teachers. Any other questions? All right, thank you. I'll stand up here because I see I have more things coming.
Ethics training for board members.
Yes, so this next item here, as you can see in the cover sheet, basically effective January 1st, every single board member needs to complete ethics training, and it is required 2 hours ethics training. We have all sorts of different ways that we can complete this, from online training to bringing someone in-house. The last time we talked about this, which I think was at the April board meeting, we talked about bringing someone in-house, maybe like an attorney from Young Winning Corps. But when we sent out the doodle survey to everyone, we were having a tough time coming up with an evening where we want to extend the board meeting by 2 hours. In the meantime, trying to sell it. In the meantime, we did discover that the Charter School Development Center has a free online course. Ziba's completed it, I've completed it, I think Justin's completed it, and Gina's completed it. It's actually pretty easy to do because it's actually a recorded webinar, and it's actually some really great information. So you can kind of sit and watch it, and then there's basically an online assessment that you take at the end. And usually about 24 to 48 hours later, they send you your certificate that you passed. So what I would like to propose or recommend is that we move forward with doing the CSDC online training, and everyone can just complete it at their own pace. It does mean that Ziba's going to put it on her Form 700 hounding list. So she will be driving to your house with a laptop if you haven't completed it by a certain date.
Sitting there with a 2 hour.
Yeah.
Lunch.
Dinner.
Dinner.
Yeah, but does that kind of make sense to everyone? I don't know,
Yeah.
Gina, Justin, anything you want to add about the training?
It was so easy.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was nice to have
It's
that.
better than the 2 hours.
All right, so that's what we'll plan on doing then, and Ziba will work with you all on making sure you have that information. Excellent.
All right, review of board member terms.
So 'tis the season where we need to start talking about board member terms. So you can see that Pretty, Nita, Maria, and Sean, all of your terms are up for renewal. I know that Ziba reached out to you all, and you all said that you would like to come back for another 2-year term. So that means that you all would be up for reappointment at the October board meeting. Also at that time, I think it's Arsenio's appointment is off slightly based on the time of the year. So we'll reappoint you in October as well. So we get everyone sort of on an October cycle. But any questions or thoughts about that? Anyone change their mind since you talked to Ziba? Good. I'm glad no one changed their mind. All right.
Have to make my box.
What's that? Make your box bigger?
I'm ready.
All right, so the next one is Petra is coming up, talking about absences and excuses for classroom-based attendance.
Oh, good evening, everyone. It's time to talk about my favorite subject ever. So Joe, you did a really great job of setting up the importance of attendance. And this is something that you all know I've spent a lot of time investing in and had some really great outcomes with having a reduction in chronic absenteeism and an increase in absenteeism across our site-based academies. One of the things, I feel like I know this policy like the back of my hand, but there continues to be like loopholes and things we need to tighten up. And so what you'll see in your packet is any of the new text that was added or changed is all in red. Through conversations with families and principals, there's still some confusion around excused versus unexcused absences. And so I'm really trying to tighten that by calling that out in our policy, is that even though it's called excused, it still counts as an absence that we still want to address, like, sorry. We really want to address, like, if it is a chronic illness, then we need to come to the table and develop maybe a health plan for you or a 504 plan. And so I really wanted to be intentional about calling out that an excused absence is still an absence. And so you'll see that throughout the policy. Really trying to delineate between what the role of a principal is in terms of attendance support and then the student services director. So you'll see that throughout as well. There's some confusion too around like the SART meeting and the SART contract, what the purpose is. So oftentimes I'll sit down with families at SART meetings, that's the school attendance review team meetings, and parents feel very defensive, like, why am I here? You're calling me. I was like, no, we want to partner with you and find out why your student's not coming to school and how we can support with that. But then also holding our families accountable for bringing their kids to school once they hit that 10% mark. So you'll see some language around ironing out exactly what the purpose of a SART meeting is and what will happen in a SART meeting. So you'll see that in there. There was some ed code that came out allowing middle school and high school students to engage in a civic or political event as long as they notify the school ahead of time. So you'll see that as number 16 on page 5. We're really, we'll be implementing, I'm not sure if Joe had shared with you, our visitor management system. So really accounting for everyone who is on campus and who is taking our students off campus. So adding some language on page 7 that if you're coming to check out your student, you do need to provide some type of identification. So we're not just sending you with some random person. So calling that part out as well. And there's one more part. Oh, so what Laura and I had noticed from independent study is what families might do is they might say, I'm going to go ahead and take my 10 days of independent study, but then I'm just going to take 5 more days off after that for a total of 15, which is really smart, like in terms of like budding things up to vacation. But then what we were seeing is, okay, I'm going to take this 10 days and then we deny the additional 5 days, but then families will leave 5 days before their independent study. So we're trying to like tighten it up too, like please only use those 10 days in a row. And so you'll see on page 9 that we're really trying to get families to avoid taking kids out for 15 days at a time. So we added that before piece as well. And I think those are the major changes. So it's really just some technical pieces in there. So happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
So I do have a question.
Please.
There's a section, it's early on, but it says, let me find it again. It references sixth to 12th grade or something? Yes. The SART panel will discuss the reasons behind the continued absences, excused and unexcused with the student. If the student is in grades 6 through 12 and the student's parent guardian, what do we do for kindergarten through 5th?
So it's a great question. Really, once kids shift to 6th through 12th grade, we really want them to take more ownership of their attendance. Where we find in the elementary, oftentimes it's maybe parent driven, like the parents running late, and maybe it's where it's more of a shift to the upper grades of like, hey, no, student, what's going on with you? Because they can articulate a little bit more. Whereas the younger kids, it's just a different level of understanding.
So do we have a SART panel for K through 5?
We do. We just don't include the student on the K through 5 ones. We might for like a 5th grader if it would be appropriate, but typically not in the elementary setting.
Okay. I got it. I understand that distinction now. It was a little bit
I see what you're saying. It's like, wait, or do we only do that? So I wonder if I can tweak that
Yeah.
language just a little
Maybe
bit.
just a little bit.
Because I see what you're saying. It's like, oh, wait, so we're only doing this for students in grades. Okay.
Yeah.
So something about students in that age attending the actual meeting.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What
I can
page
go back.
number is that, just for the notes?
Two, 12 of the packet, 2 of the policy.
That's a great point. I'll clean that up for the second.
And then I think I had a question at the end. If anybody else wants to go, jump in. All right, I think it was sometime in yes, here we go. It was in the returning from school holiday when the student was not in attendance.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
19 of the packet, 9 of the policy.
Okay, got it. Okay.
When a student is not in attendance on the first 3 days of the school year or the first 3 days following a school holiday of 5 or more calendar days. Okay, got it. Good.
I know it's a lot of if then, here's
It's
some numbers.
it's a lot of if-thens, yeah.
And that's why I wanted to add like the examples winter break, right? That's a significant
Yes.
chunk.
Nothing more for me. Anybody else?
And remember, this will be brought back next month for a second reading and adoption.
All right.
The
so-
identification, on the student checkout,
Mhm.
how is that handled right? I'm trying to think when I've done it, but I haven't presented. Is it just right now we just don't require, like, what's the status quo without the addition?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not consistent. So it might be, oh, you know, Arsenio, we know you. It's
Mhm.
or oh yeah, that's Arsenio, yeah, that's so-and-so's dad. It's wanting to create a process and calling it out specifically of, you know, this is our policy and practice. So we're not just dismissing students.
Okay, and it just says identification. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to think of some scenarios where that may be a little bit challenging, but I'm assuming it's pretty low. I mean, like, I'm trying to think all the various forms of identification.
We're pretty open. I mean,
Yeah.
driver's license, passports, you know, the idea is that we want to be able to see something that is photo identification with the name. We also look to the student too, to see that the student's
Sure.
recognizing, okay, that's my dad, you know,
Yeah.
like, and certainly if you're someone who picks up your kid, let's say, your kid has a lot of orthodontist appointments or whatever, definitely we get to a point where the staff recognizes you and they're like, oh, okay, it's Arsenio. But part of why Petra and the staff want to put this in the policy is we've had some pushback from families,
Right,
like,
right.
why are you looking at my ID?
Right,
And it's like, because we don't know you actually, and we need to make sure
Right.
that you are who you say that you are, especially if it's not a parent and it's just another like emergency contact person that's on the documentation. But we also recognize that, you know, not all of our families are documented. People might have, you know, feelings about showing different forms of ID. So we're pretty open about the types of ID, but we want to see some sort of photo ID that identifies who you are.
thanks.
Anybody else? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Edith's turn.
So first read.
Go for it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, first read, I was looking at it. First read for our purchasing and signature authority policy, board policy 3300.
So basically what we're doing is bringing back tonight some updated wording that you'll find for this policy that we originally did back in 2020. It's page 3 of 4 of the actual policy, and it's under employee reimbursement. So the changes that we're bringing through here are what we already do and apply accordingly to our County Office of Education's accounts payable audit. However, we realized during the last school year that we wanted to clarify specific things in writing. So you'll see that under employee reimbursements, we're adding the terms materials maybe include instructional resources, classroom consumables, professional development and materials and school-related events and activities. Reimbursements will not be made for purchasing gift cards or compensating individuals. And then we're also adding that the employee should be getting their immediate supervisor's approval first before just going out and getting something. And then finally, towards the end, wanted to draw your attention, we're clarifying this too. No reimbursement shall be made without an original receipt, or receipts may only contains reimbursable expenditures. Reimbursements will not be made will be made for actual monetary expenses. Credit card points, discounts, or similar non-monetary funds will not be reimbursed. So like if you're using your Amazon bonus points or a gift card or something like that, the county wants to see the actual cash you paid out is what we're going to reimburse. And then also adding some language to the last sentence that says purchases without receipts shall be the responsibility of the purchaser and will not be reimbursed. So if you lose your receipts, you're not going to get reimbursed.
This may be a really dumb question, but like what's incorporated with classroom consumables? Like what does that include?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's any type of instructional materials where they're going to write on it, and it's only good for 1 year. So we call it consumable because it's used up, and so like workbooks would be considered consumable.
Glue, paint,
Okay.
crayons. Yeah, I mean, typically we provide all these supplies, but
Yeah.
sometimes there might be a situation where a
Right.
teacher realizes, oh, I don't have any crayons and I have this project tomorrow. So they're, quickly run out to Target to get some stuff, and then they'll go through the reimbursement process with their supervisor.
We need one, it says on page 3, reimbursements will not be made for purchasing gift cards or you have compensated instead of compensating.
Yeah, ING.
Compensating with, okay, making a note there.
Any other questions? I'll be back in September.
Yeah.
All right, next one is board policy 3300.1, use of school credit cards.
Okay, so school credit cards, this is an update. Originally, we brought this for adoption in 2020 again. So on page 2 of the policy, we've updated the positions that have a credit card. So the executive operations manager has one, so that was added to the list. And then we're adding the additional wording in the following paragraph. Credit cards assigned to the executive director and or the finance and budget director, CFO, will remain in the business office for school purchasing purposes. Natomas charter staff who have not been assigned a credit card must make those purchases within the business office with the business office purchasing agent using the school credit card. Credit cards will not be checked out to employees, and purchases must be made in the business office. And that's to make sure that the credit cards do stay in the business office and that they're, we don't have to track them down. Nowadays, credit cards for businesses have to be issued to an individual's name. And so our employees have these names on them. And so it is very disconcerting when the credit card is checked out and not returned in a timely manner. And stuff too. So we just kind of want to tighten up and safeguard those areas.
Questions, comments? Okay, it'll be back next month.
Yep.
All right, Anita with our budget presentation.
It's a handy dandy. Good, great, okay. All right, so this is a state budget update. It seems like forever ago that the state actually adopted their budget at the end of June, and the budget trailers came out in early July. There's no board meeting, so we're bringing this up to you. Now, charter schools are not required to do a 45-day revision such as school districts and stuff, but we do like to bring the board additional information here. So overall, the K-12 education budget fares really well in the state's adopted budget. So we got the full COLA, the 2.3 as it ended up. There's a big one-time grant that we'll talk about. And then there's some of the governor's program expansions, mainly in early childhood development. And then there's the federal budget aspect of that, where deteriorating economic conditions, and this is, again, at the time that the state budget was adopted, and inconsistent information regarding the federal budget and how it ties to the California budget. So, here, okay, so in terms of economics and our state revenues continue to be strong, and this is through June, despite other economic clouds that we've heard in the news and stuff. And over the summer too, the receipts actually have been coming in as projected. State costs, especially Medi-Cal, is growing far beyond their projections. You probably heard that in the news as well. And so the state Medi-Cal program, that's the state portion, but will also affected by the federal portion, which is Medicaid, which I'll talk about later, and how that affects the California budget. There's also an ongoing structural imbalance of the state. So this is no new news. The state has been having this problem for quite a while. The LA fires really added some impacts to the state budget as far as expenditures go, and the tax filings for those that were in the LA area were delayed. So that also adds some uncertainty to the revenue projections. And then federal policies present major additional threats or unknowns. Now, at the time that they brought this out and stuff, tariffs were creating uncertainty. It still does and stuff. That big, beautiful bill with the ongoing tax cuts may affect the state's budget. And then the Medicaid and other federal spending cuts, if they cut that, then California, based on their policies, will have to pick up more on the Medi-Cal side of the bill on that. And then immigration enforcement. Now, since then, I think it was maybe August 1st or August 5th, this federal government has released the federal funds to the schools and stuff too. So all the Title I's that they were holding up and stuff have been released so far. On an ongoing basis, that's still unknown, and they're talking about maybe taking all that money and putting it together, including the special ed dollars, and issuing out like block grants to the school. So that's something that we do not have a lot of information about at this time. So the weather projection is the state budget is kind of cloudy on there. So the structural deficits are projected to go through 28-29 fiscal year. So that's 4 years out without them doing some drastic things. And then also, again, we're very sensitive to the decisions at the federal level and how that impacts California budget. They're projecting that tariffs will affect the state revenues by $15 billion. And then also cost shifts are unknown. So say, for example, if they close the Department of Ed at the federal level and shift those responsibilities out to the state, that could add more expenditures to the state budget. Now, the same risks, how it affects Prop 98, which is the share of the K through 14 pie of revenues and stuff, is that the structural deficits still affect us. Also, the stock market. So anything that Wall Street's reaction to the fiscal and monetary trade policies, such as the tariffs and stuff. And then also what we're seeing is basically ongoing smaller COLAs projected due to the lack of growth. and then also declining enrollment in a lot of schools within California. Right here. So this is the LCFF dartboard, the local control funding formula here for 25-26. So you can see by grade span here. We started off with last year's base. They added the 2.3 COLA, which I'm wondering if we have a little pointer here. Okay, here we go. And then you get a subtotal there for the grade span adjustments, TK through 3. You get an additional add-on, and then also 9 through 12 for the career tech education. Then depending on your I cannot say that word, socioeconomical group of students, here you get an additional 20%. So that's your free, reduced, homeless, foster youth students. And then also if that those demographics exceed 65%, you get concentration grant money on there, and Natomas does not get that. The other thing too that I wanted to point out is that they've increased the TK add-on to $5,545 per ADA. And I have a slide to talk more about that. So for Natomas, our average for this year is projected to be $12,417.69, and that's based on our projected P2 ADA, which is about $22 million. So for us, the average is about $308 over the prior year on that. And it also is an increase for us of about 2.55%. So the COLA is only 2.3%. The difference in that increase is due to enrollment that we projected at the high school level there. So cash deferrals are back. So as we're closing 24-25, the state had projected to defer just a tiny portion of the June deferral into this year and pay it in July. That's been done. But they are projecting for 25-26 to take the whole June apportionment and pay it into July. And they're hoping that they can settle up with that, but if not, they're prepared to continue that into 27-28. So the difference between a budget deferral and a cash deferral is, and this is only at the state level right here. So the budget deferral is basically the state can recognize revenues in one year, but allocate it in the next year. And then also, but a cash deferral, that takes changes in the law. And that's when you can recognize, for example, if they owe us money in June, they can record that expense in July. That is not something that we can do on our books as well, but that's something that the state can do. So that's a difference between the budget deferrals and the cash deferrals there. The good news is we have the Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant. So this block grant is truly discretionary, but the state does have some key priorities that they've highlighted. And so I've listed them there as well. We're getting $558,000, so it's a good size. It's about $350 per ADA on that as well. They have not actually, they've given this estimate. The money has not been released, and they haven't assigned a resource code so we can start budgeting and using it. But the directors are getting together and developing a plan that we'll probably bring to you. I'll be meeting with Laura Barrio to hash out some ideas, and we'll bring you to our cabinet meeting for approval, and then we'll bring something to the board for that expenditures. With this, it's we'll be bringing final expenditure reports and stuff, and we have until 2029 to spend our money, so we don't have to rush out and spend it all in one setting. For other programs right here, transitional kindergarten. So combined with previous investments in this particular program, the governor has set aside $2.1 billion. So all little kiddos that are 4 years old by September 1 can join TK. And also what triggers this year is a new staffing ratio, which we're going from a 12-to-1 to 10-to-1. And so with that, we decided consciously, we used to have a TK class of 24. We now have a TK class of 20 to keep that 10-to-1 ratio. We're also getting this additional 2397, so that so for every TK average daily attendance, we're getting an additional 5,540, 545. Previously was a $3,000 amount there, and that is subject to the audit for that. And expanded learning opportunities. So we've had this program for quite a while, and with this, they are changing the formula in this year. So previously, if you had a UPP of 75% or more, you were considered in the rate 1 section, rate 1 section up here. And they were the first priority. And then everybody else who was lower than that was considered rate 2. So for this enacted budget and stuff, they've lowered the rate 1 pot of money where you only have to have 55% or more unduplicated count in order to receive the higher rate 1 fees, basically. Then that leaves rate 2 with whatever's left. What was nice about it, because we were very nervous on how that was going to affect our share of the money, and but they did put this in that schools would receive no less than $1,575 per qualified ADA according to the formula. So for us, we got this year's allocation came out to be about $363,000. That's about a $27,000 reduction. We were planning for a lot more than that, so we're happy that they put in that minimum amount right there for to kind of hold us a little harmless on that piece. And yeah, open up. It seems like it's, like I said, it's a long ways away from adopted budget to now, summer break. Now we're looking at first interim and starting school.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Next up, the Human Resources Strategic Plan.
And I'm happy to announce that Kiwana Bill, my HR payroll analyst, is here tonight, and she's going to be coming to talk with us here. All right, so this is about the third year that in August we presented an update in human resources, what we've been doing as you approved your strategic plan, because it is strategic plan number 1, a strategic plan goal number 1, I should say. And so tonight we're continuing on the same thing, but later on in the agenda, as you'll see, is that we have a public hearing scheduled. So when I was at the Schools Insurance Authority board meeting in June that we have, it was announced that this new law came out that, and it kind of took everybody by surprise and required this public hearing. So as part of this presentation, we're going to be going over some of those requirements for the public hearing that you'll be acting on the next presentation on here. So, all right, so strategic goal number 1, which is also aligned to our LCAP goal number 4, to attract and retain and develop highly qualified professionals focused on student success. So there are 5 action items that fall within this goal number 1. So this is just a quick summary on each of those actions. So action 1.1, all positions will be filled prior to the first day of instruction. And all vacancies will be filled within 1 month. So in that, say status in progress, Kiwana is going to be going over that in detail. Action 2.2, all teachers and administrators are fully credentialed and appropriately assigned. 1.3, all new employees feel welcome and supported in their transition. And then 1.4, employees believe that their work is meaningful. They feel valued and supported, which is always an ongoing goal. And then the last 3 that we have here, you can see on the screen, providing competitive salaries and benefits to all employees, retaining highly qualified and competent employees who are committed to the school and the students and the community, and then all employees are effectively evaluated. go back to work.
Okay, so status of vacancies. So starting the school year, we have contracting out of 3 FTEs. Just recently, with the ECA teacher, this one is a new one where we have a vacancy. And when we had did the PowerPoint, it came a couple of days afterwards. And then the 7th grade humanities teacher, that one also, that happened just recently where we had a teacher transition out. Custodian, that position will be filled within 30 days.
Correct, yes.
And then the campus support aide, that one, we are still looking where we have it posted, and with that one, we're hoping to get that filled soon, but these positions right now are being filled with substitutes.
Oh, before we go on, just, I wanted to also, just commend the whole staff, including our principals and stuff too, because we were considered, except for the contracting employees, which are special ed, that we have, we were considered fully staffed. The humanities teacher was basically right before school started, resigned, and then also last Friday, an ECA teacher. The custodian is purposely left vacant because we are using our substitutes and we're trying to promote them within. And then also the campus support aide was hired. However, due to some personal things, the person had to back out and we had to repost for that. So it was kind of disappointing to see after we put all this together and stuff and it got so close.
Okay, so teaching credential, I'll try to jump ahead. So teaching credential types, so we have the provisional permits. So this is a person has not started their credential program, but their college degree allows them to be in the classroom for 1 year before starting their credential. Then we have our interns. They're teaching while working on their credential and enrolled in a formal internship program. Then we have induction, and this is the preliminary teaching credential complete and enrolled in a teacher induction support program to obtain a clear credential, which must be done within 5 years. Additionally, teachers coming from out of state have to complete an induction program regardless of their years of experience. Then we have our fully qualified, which they're preliminary and clear credential completed, and we have our residence teachers, which is similar to the interns, but they're working under a supervision of a fully qualified teacher. And then our teacher credentialing status, so starting of the school year, all positions, we had 3 provisional permits, 3 interns, induction program 15, and then 2 resident teachers. Then with our teacher assignments, so the enacted budget included changes to the definition for teachers' assignments, impacting certificated educator assignments reported to CalSAS for educator assignment monitoring. So the statutory modification addressed the LEA school community interest in being notified about certificated vacancies resulting in the use of substitutes, increased class sizes, or canceled classes. So there's some key highlights for the assignment monitoring changes. So teacher shortages. So positions is not permanently filled on census day with appropriately assigned fully credentialed teacher. Vacancy identified if position is not filled for an entire school year or 1 semester. And then appropriately assigned teacher must hold a credential permit or waiver issued by CTC that authorizes services in the setting or service area.
So this information now is going to be public on California's website, or the CDE's website now. So as part of the CalSAT collection that we do for credentialing. So we want everybody inappropriately assigned and stuff too. Or we want to fill our vacancies before CVED's day, so we don't show up as a teacher shortage and all this stuff too. So just something that you can be aware of, and it's another thing to be, for schools to be evaluated on. Because the public had requested this because they wanted to know the status. Does a school have a teacher shortage, or how many vacancies do they have? So this is a result of public requests.
Yes. And that's something that's really nice is that NCS culture. So we did some surveys and got some positive information. So new hires welcome and supported. They feel like they belong at 96%. And this is done with the new hire welcome interviews that Anita does. Then the meaningful evaluation system at 76%, leadership opportunities 80%, and is satisfied with recognition received 83%. And these are all based on staff surveys. Okay, so a competitive salary and benefits. So this year we did continue doing the annual compensation study. And what we did is that we did a 1% salary schedule increase for all staff. And then additionally with increases to health and welfare, employer monthly contributions. That was a big one. And then with staff retention, so that has been increasing. So all staff retention is at 97.9% with an increase by 7.9%. And then teacher retention was at equals 99.95% with an increase of 9.95%. And this last year we had 3 retirees.
Within those numbers. and
Yes.
stuff too. So this was as of the last payroll of the year, so that 7/9 payroll goes through June 30th. And so those were the actual numbers. And then summer comes, we get these last minute things. So the last minute resignations aren't factored in there. That's the last payroll for the year. Okay, this slide right here, I just wanted to show you because I thought that you would be interested in this. So the state releases certificated staffing data. So the big blue bars right there represent California statewide total FTEs for teachers and stuff. So you can see that those bars are going up. Also, the blue line right there shows the FTE change. So it has gone up and then it's gone pretty much flat and slightly ticking up. Enrollment changes for California, you can see is that the green line. So you'll see that it is declining enrollment right there. Normally, when you have declining enrollment, staff normally is laid off or reduced and things like that. Also, on the orange dotted line, you see the student to teacher ratio change, which that is also going down. So you can see that the average class sizes are continuing to decrease. That's unusual too, because if you're declining enrollment and stuff and schools are trying to reduce staff to mitigate that revenue loss and stuff, you normally see higher class sizes and those type of changes. So what I thought was fascinating to see is that overall in California, teachers are, we're retaining teachers, and those teachers, even though the enrollment is going down, are really being focused on these specialty assignment teachers, like, so for example, TOSAs, teachers on special assignments, or focusing on ELD or math or something like that. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting graph to see on there, because you hear that, you know, student enrollment is decreasing and things like that. And a lot of people automatically think, oh, the class sizes are going to go up. Well, that's really not the case here right there. And then also too, is that teaching staff has been maintaining, if not increasing in these areas too. So, okay. Now you go.
And then for our effective evaluations, so admin and manager supervisors are evaluated on a yearly basis. Certificated new hires are evaluated prior to the last day of the school for the first 2 years, and then go on a rotation cycle every 2 years afterwards. And then for classified employees, that within their first 90 days, they go ahead and they have an evaluation. And then after that, moving forward, it's annually.
And so on here, we just wanted to share with you some employment legislation updates. So the two bills in green, they died in 2025, but you may have heard of the paid pregnancy leave, where they were talking about up to 14 weeks of full pay that the employers would need to pay if someone went on maternity leave. That is no longer advancing this year. That would have been a huge hit to schools' budgets and stuff too. And then the AB 1233, that was the classified version of the AB 2534 for certificated staff to report egregious misconduct. So that has pretty much failed. Whether they bring it back, you don't know. So right now, this year, we had to start doing the AB 2534 reviews in human resources, where Kiwanis reaches out to every school employer that someone's had to make sure that they didn't have anything filed against them or anything like that. What's anticipated for this year is AB 1273. And this is requiring that CDE convene a classified staffing ratio work group. So this is kind of interesting, where they're trying to get volunteers for a work group to get together and really focus on food service workers, transportation, paraprofessionals, business office, things like that, and look at overall staffing ratios, including environmental factors, enrollment, school size factors, and as well as taking into account future pandemic effects. What does that mean? I don't know. But so this work group will do a study, and they are supposed to come back and provide a report for recommendations by July of 2026. So it could be that we would have to have staffing ratios are kind of, I consider them like caseloads, like for special ed, you can't exceed 20 to whatever, or a 10-to-1 for TK or something like that. So it'd be kind of interesting to follow this and see what they come up with and stuff too. Has anyone heard of this at all? Okay. All right, so moving forward, we're continuing to attend job fairs. The staff really attended a lot. Also, this coming year in March of 2026 is going to be our 4th annual Charter Collaborative Career Fair, but we don't have a date yet. But we try to do it around or prior to March 15th or so. And then I will share with you once we get those dates and stuff too. We're also tracking our job fair performance. So people that come in and register with us, if we ended up hiring and stuff. In, I want to say 23, 24, with our tracking, we really didn't hire anybody as a result of meeting them at a job fair. 24, 25, we got a couple. So we're trying to track that and see which of these job and career fairs are basically worth us attending and getting people to come and stuff too. We'll also continue with the compensation study. That's what Ziba and Joe do every January, and we're finding their salary schedules. Continuing the entrance interviews, why did you come to NCS? I really enjoy those. So my this year's new hires and stuff we're scheduling meetings for the end of September right now for them. And then also we'll continue with the exit interview process. This is something that Kiwanis does, where she, why are you leaving NCS, and trying to get those changes. And then also new last year was the Health and Welfare Committee. We're going to continue that. We will be coming to you soon with committee recommendations on a possible change to medical insurance. So, and if that is the case, we will have our broker, Alliant Insurance, give you a brief presentation and some of the recommendations that we have. But I also want to acknowledge the committee's hard work on that, because what we did, they did a lot of work on going out for an RFQ, request for qualifications, and interviewing all of these brokers and stuff. And now we've been working with Alliance for that and stuff too. And then one last thing, Joe mentioned the student workers and stuff. So we did, our student workers, mainly over the summer, some of the hours came during the school year, mainly over the summer, they worked over 1,000 hours here. And so about 1,100, I think was my count. And it was more than 10, I think Joe mentioned 10, but it was throughout the year. And so the cost was about $22,000 for us too for that. But it was amazing to see how those hours added up, and they got to add it to the resume, and good job. So, yeah. You can open up for questions.
Any questions?
A question. So kind of on the earlier slide on the teacher credential types and teacher credential status, so 2 questions. Do we have historical data on the status? And then also, do we have any comparison data either for Natomas Unified or other charter schools in the region?
Yeah. Comparison data, I don't think that we could reach out to Natomas Unified to see if they have it and stuff too. Laura and now one of our TOSAs is tracking our induction program, our mentoring program stuff. So we can go back, it will take us a while to go back and look at that data because we know who the permits are, who the insurance are. Laura?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
So an induction is what teachers need to do after getting their credential to clear it. And so we continually have about 12 to 15 teachers that are in the induction program. It takes them 2 years. We have seen a rise in teacher residents over the past couple of years as there was funding for it. So we're at 2, we were at 2 last year as well. As far as interns, that has been fluctuated a little bit, but we've had on average about two interns over the past 6 to 7 years. So, we're not seeing that big rush of people going into credential programs. And so we're trying to work with our staff, and like our teacher residents are both staff who were classified staff prior. And so we worked with the County Office of Education and their program and other local programs to get them into resident programs to become teachers. So they were both paraeducators, and so we're helping them to get to that spot. A couple of our new teachers this year, either we're going through a similar program or we're going through an intern program or residency with us in the past. So we're using our community to fill the spots and working with the local graduate schools to get people into the program. So we're seeing an influx of like brand new to education while seeing consistency with our new people getting their induction. Yeah.
Thank you. Did that answer your question? Or would you like to see us provide tracking information in the future, or?
I mean,
It's
the answer was pretty sufficient in terms of like some of the consistency over time and stuff, so it's not a specific.
Okay.
I do think too, part of why the state has put these new definitions together is this data doesn't really exist in a statewide manner where you could go call Natomas Unified and like Laura, someone who's in the know can kind of say, what's been the pattern? But this is actually why the state's trying to really codify those definitions so that it is a little bit more transparent in terms of like, what is the state of the educator workforce in California and where do we need to make some investments long term?
All right. At this point, I would like to open the public hearing at 7:59 for the vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts.
Online. No one online?
All right.
Can I just say something, on this piece right here, this is new legislation, as I mentioned and stuff, but moving forward, we will be doing this public hearing prior to the adopted budget is when it should be done.
Okay, great. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd like to close the public hearing at 8 o'clock for the vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. All right, next up, we have consent items. Got me all out of order here. All right.
Let's change up, see if who's paying attention.
May I have a motion to approve tonight's consent items? Thank you, Arsenio. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Need a roll call, Arsenio?
Hi.
Justin?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. Yes, Dr. Gaffney? Yes. Preeti?
Yes.
Sean? All right. What's next? Oh, another presentation.
No, actually.
No. Resolution? Yes. All right. Ms. Woods?
Kim, your turn.
Approval of resolution 08182025.01, early college academy course certification.
All right, this is our annual course-based independent study certification, which we have to do every year for Ed Code 51749.5. And basically this just lists all of the classes we are going to offer this year. It lists the number of instructional minutes, the number of credits, how we plan our instruction, and then says that the courses are the same rigor as our site-based program and then the same number of basic instructional minutes. Any questions about any of our courses or anything in the resolution?
All right. May I have a motion to approve resolution 08182025.01 early college academy course certification? Thank you, Dr. Gaffney. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Preeti. Roll call vote, Sean.
Yes.
Preeti.
Yes.
Dr. Gaffney.
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Nita.
Yes.
Gina. Yes. Justin.
Yes.
Arsenio.
Yes.
Okay.
I will need signatures on that resolution, so please don't leave until you sign it.
All right. Hearing of the public for items not on the agenda.
Nothing received with me and no one online.
Okay. Hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
Also nothing received with me and no one online.
All right. Executive Director comments, Dr. Wood.
Welcome back to school. Hopefully you're all getting your emails from your principals and stuff. But stay tuned. Back to school nights are this week and next week. And then shortly after Labor Day, performances at the Performing and Fine Arts Academy will begin. So lots of exciting things going on campus this year.
All right. Board of Director comments. Future board. You got nothing.
That's lucky.
Future board agenda items? Okay. If I don't have any objections, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:03.
Thank you.